The night sky over Earth looked calm and quiet. People walked through cities and towns as if everything was normal. But far above, in the cold darkness beyond the moon, 5 powerful alien fleets slowly moved closer to the blue planet. They did not come in peace. They came to start a war they believed they had already won. Each of the 5 empires had ruled the galaxy for centuries. They saw Earth as a small, weak world at the edge of space. To them, humans were not a real power. The Varan Dominion brought their heavy war carriers that could crush moons. The Ithra Consortium moved their bright, burning plasma ships that looked like a wall of fire in the void. The Krell Imperium, a cold and silent machine empire, deployed their massive dreadnoughts. The proud Luxari Republic sent shining silver ships with golden banners of conquest. And the Taver Union sent the largest formation of all, surrounding Earth like a steel cage. These 5 empires hated one another for many years. But they agreed on one thing. Earth should never be allowed to grow strong. They believed it was better to crush humans before they became a threat. So they joined together and sent one message to the people of Earth. It was a single cold demand, translated into hundreds of human languages. Earth must surrender. No resistance. No negotiations. If you do not obey, we will erase your planet. The message was broadcast across the entire solar system. Satellites picked it up. Civilian radios caught pieces of it. Every government received the warning. But the strange thing was, no one on Earth replied. There was no begging, no apology, and no fear. Just silence. Deep under the Pacific Ocean, in a hidden base known only to a few, quiet alarms began to ring. Red lights lit the narrow steel hallways. Soldiers in black uniforms moved with fast but calm steps. Officers looked at giant screens showing the alien fleets entering orbit one by one. They were not surprised. Earth had been expecting this day. For years, the alien empires believed Earth was blind. They thought humans could not see beyond their own planet. They thought human weapons were too weak for a real war. But they were wrong. While the world talked about peace and progress on the surface, something else was happening in secret. Deep underground, a single global defense command had been built. Every nation had agreed to keep it hidden. No banners, no noise, just silence and preparation. In Kansas, an old farmer sat on his porch with his dog. He watched the stars without knowing what waited beyond them. In New York, people pointed at strange lights far above the clouds. In a remote desert base, elite pilots entered black suits checking every system carefully. In orbit behind the moon, large objects that had slept in silence for years began to wake up. Earth was ready. The alien empires spread their fleets around the planet like a great circle. Their weapons aimed down at the blue world, ready to burn cities to the ground. They had done this to many other planets before. To them, this was just another victory. The Ithra flagship fired a bright red warning beam toward Earth's atmosphere. It was not meant to hit, it was meant to scare. The beam cut through space like a blade of light. But it never reached the air. It stopped suddenly as if something invisible had swallowed it. On every alien ship, alarms started to beep. Something was wrong. Their sensors were blind. A strange signal appeared on all channels at once. It was not alien. It was human. A calm voice spoke in perfect universal code. You should not have come here. Every alien commander froze. The voice carried no fear, no panic, no shouting. It was soft and cold like winter wind. The Varan admiral leaned forward, unsure if he heard it right. The Krell Imperium's machine brains processed the signal over and over. The Luxari admiral laughed nervously. Primitive humans, he said. They dare to threaten us. But in the corner of his eye, something moved on the radar. New shapes appeared. At first, they were just small dots at the edge of the system. Then the dots grew closer at a speed no alien ship had ever matched. The alien commanders realized too late that these ships were not coming. They were already here. The shapes had been hiding behind gravitational shadows, invisible to scanners, waiting like hunters in the dark. Then, one by one, black human ships appeared around the fleets. They had no shining lights, no painted marks, and no flags. They moved with the quiet grace of a storm at night. Every alien captain had trained for many wars, but none had seen anything like this. The Luxari admiral opened a channel and shouted orders, but the translator lagged behind the speed of human movement. The Taver Union tried to close the formation, but their engines were already being jammed by a field they did not understand. On Earth's hidden command bridge, Admiral Cole stood with his hands behind his back. His voice was steady as stone. "Execute Phase 1, he said. Human ships moved at once. 100 small missiles vanished into the darkness. They were not glowing like alien plasma weapons. They were silent, wrapped in black carbon that swallowed light. A few seconds later, the first alien dreadnought cracked apart like a shell. A bright flash lit the side of the moon. Another alien ship exploded before its shields could even react. Inside the alien fleets, panic grew. They had expected to meet an unprepared, soft planet. Instead, they met a hunter with its teeth bared. Every sensor went wild. Messages flew between fleets. Some captains shouted for retreat. Others shouted to attack. None of it worked. The humans did not rush. They moved slowly and carefully like a predator that already knew how the fight would end. Every shot they fired found its mark. Every attack from the empires was absorbed or dodged. Human ships disappeared and reappeared at different angles, as if they could walk through shadows. On the surface of Earth, millions of people watched the skies. Many did not know the full story. Governments had told them there might be danger, but not the scale of it. But when the first flashes appeared in the night sky, they understood something big had begun. A little girl in Paris pointed at the red streaks crossing the stars. A taxi driver in Cairo pulled over to stare at a beam slicing across the horizon. A group of fishermen in the Philippines watched silent shapes moving above the clouds. The world did not scream in fear. The world simply waited. In the alien command chamber, the 5 leaders of the empires connected through their private channel. Each of them looked confident before. Now they looked shaken. They should not have this kind of fleet, the Varan leader said. Their technology is not in any record, the Ithra leader replied. They lied to us all, the Luxari admiral whispered. For years. But it was too late to argue. One of the Taver flagships tried to fire its main cannon at a human cruiser. The cannon charged for 10 full seconds, glowing bright. But before it could release the blast, 3 small human missiles slipped under its shield and exploded near its core. The flagship broke apart in silence, its golden hull melting into the black. Back on Earth, in a dark underground room, technicians monitored every signal. One of them whispered softly. They didn't even see it coming. Admiral Cole kept his eyes on the display. Red alien icons turned gray one by one. This is only the beginning, he said. In space, the alien fleets tried to regroup. The Luxari Republic's silver cruisers formed a shield wall. The Krell Imperium moved its machine ships into a diamond formation. The Varan Dominion tried to cover the others with their carriers. But human ships moved between them like silent wolves, breaking their formations piece by piece. The Ithra admiral shouted, "Where are they?" But there was no answer. Human ships did not stay still long enough to be caught. The war had only started a few minutes ago, and already the empires were losing. The old farmer in Kansas looked up at the night sky. The dog at his feet tilted its head. In the distance, the stars flickered strangely. He did not know the details, but he felt something. Earth was fighting back. On the Luxari flagship, the admiral finally understood. This was not a surprise attack. It was a trap that had been waiting for years. Humanity had not grown strong overnight. They had been hiding in silence, preparing in the shadows, letting the galaxy believe they were weak. A human voice spoke again across all channels. Calm, cold, steady. You picked the wrong planet, and then the real strike began. The first wave of the human attack had left the 5 empires confused and shaken. Their proud fleets, which had once crushed entire worlds, now drifted in chaos. Ships burned silently in the cold of space. Commanders shouted across broken channels, trying to bring order to what had already turned into disaster. But the human fleet was just getting started. Behind the moon, new formations slowly emerged. They were larger than the first wave. Massive black carriers unfolded like sleeping beasts waking up. Long silver launch rails glowed faintly as rows of smaller crafts detached, sliding into perfect formation without a single wasted move. There was no dramatic sound, no shining banners, no speeches, only the quiet precision of a force that had trained for this exact moment for many years. On the Earth's surface, command centers deep under mountains and oceans received coded signals from the fleet. The room was silent except for the soft sound of buttons and beeps. Admiral Cole stood at the front of the main control deck, his hands behind his back. His eyes did not blink. Phase 2, he said. High above, the order was carried across the black void in less than a second. Human ships changed formation like a single living creature. Smaller crafts darted forward while the heavy carrier stayed behind, their launch bays opening wide like the lungs of a giant machine. The Varan Dominion tried to lead a counterattack. Their carriers fired hundreds of glowing plasma bolts at the human fleet. But the human ships did not stand still. They split into narrow lines, letting the fire pass between them without a single hit. Then the reply came. A wall of black missiles left the human fleet. They moved faster than any alien sensor could follow. Some disappeared and reappeared inside enemy formations. When they exploded, the light was so bright that it painted the moon in flashes of white. Varan ships broke apart like paper in a storm. Their formation collapsed in less than 3 minutes. The Luxari Republic tried to pull back. Their ships were the fastest among the 5 empires, but speed did not help. Human cruisers blocked their retreat, moving with silent control. Luxari ships opened fire in panic. Human shields swallowed the blasts. In return, a single pulse from a human destroyer erased 2 enemy cruisers. The Luxari admiral stared at the screens with disbelief. For centuries, their ships had been feared across the stars. Now they were nothing. Farther away, the Krell Imperium tried something different. Their machine ships linked together, forming a heavy armor wall. It was their strongest defense. It had worked against other empires many times before. But humanity did not try to break the wall. They simply flew over it, around it, and through its weak points. The Krell ships fell one after another like pieces on a chessboard. Their metal walls became floating junk in the void. Inside the alien High Council channel, the 5 leaders shouted at each other. Their faces were pale. Their voices shook. "You said they were weak," one of them cried. "They were supposed to have only primitive ships," another shouted. "They lied to the whole galaxy," the Taver commander screamed. But it was too late for blame. One by one, their fleets were falling apart. On Earth, people around the world stood outside their homes, watching the strange lights in the night sky. They did not fully understand the scale of the battle, but they could feel it in the air. Something powerful was happening. The world was holding its breath. A young woman in Brazil held her baby and looked up at the red streaks across the stars. A boy in South Africa whispered that the sky looked alive. A sailor in the Arctic watched a distant glow reflect on the ice. All across the world, people saw the sky change that night, and none of them felt small anymore. On the battlefield, human ships pressed forward. Admiral Cole's voice echoed through the fleet's communication network. Cut their command links. End their coordination. A signal wave rolled across the void. Alien ships suddenly lost contact with each other. Their systems were jammed by something they could not understand. Human cyber warfare units had already mapped every signal the 5 empires used. Every time the enemy tried to speak, their voices were drowned in static. Every time they tried to regroup, their ships drifted in different directions. Humanity had not just built strong ships. It had studied these empires quietly for years. It knew their languages, their codes, their habits, and their pride. On the Ithra flagship, the commander ordered full retreat. But when his navigators checked their jump routes, they found something shocking. The coordinates were blocked. Their exit gates had been sealed before the battle even started. Human ships had placed invisible mines and field jammers at every known escape point. The Ithra commander whispered slowly, "They trapped us." A human battlecruiser appeared directly in front of the Ithra flagship. It was massive and silent. Its black hull reflected no light. The alien commander could see no windows, no faces, only darkness. Then a single beam of blue energy struck his ship. The flagship split in half without a sound. In less than 1 hour, the mighty Ithra fleet was gone. The Taver Union was the last to stand. They had the most ships, the strongest numbers. But numbers meant nothing against a force that had already prepared every move. Human ships attacked from above, below, and behind, always hitting the weak points first. Every alien blast was too slow. Every command too late. On the Luxari flagship, alarms screamed as their engines failed. The admiral grabbed the edge of the console, staring at the screen. Human ships surrounded them like shadows. He could hear human voices through the open channel. Calm and collected, "This is the price of underestimating Earth." He closed his eyes. Meanwhile, back on Earth, technicians watched red dots on their screens turn gray one by one. The map of the sky changed with each passing second. Whole enemy formations disappeared from the radar. There were no cheers in the control room. Everyone stayed quiet. They were not fighting for glory. They were fighting to make sure Earth would not kneel again. In Kansas, the old farmer stood from his porch and looked up. The stars flickered like they were breathing. The dog sat beside him, tail still, eyes wide. The old man didn't need anyone to explain. He felt it in his bones. Humanity was no longer the hunted. Humanity was the hunter now. Above Earth, the last Taver carrier exploded in a silent flash. A few enemy ships tried to surrender by cutting their power and drifting. Human ships surrounded them and took their data cores without a single shot fired. The war that was supposed to end in one day had ended in less than 2 hours. In a hidden room beneath the Pacific, Admiral Cole removed his gloves slowly. He looked at the screen showing the wreckage of the 5 Empire's fleets. "Status," he said. "Enemy fleets destroyed." One officer replied softly, "Minimal human loss, all escape gates secured." The Admiral gave a small nod. He did not smile. He did not speak loudly. Across the galaxy, the destruction of the 5 Empires was received like a shockwave. Many species had watched the event from afar, expecting to see Earth crushed. Instead, they saw 5 great powers fall in the blink of an eye. Word spread like fire through trading stations, colony outposts, and star cities. Some could not believe it. Others whispered that Earth was a monster hiding behind a kind face. But all of them understood one thing very clearly. Earth was no longer a small, quiet world at the edge of the stars. Earth was a power no one could afford to ignore. Human ships remained in silent orbit. They did not sing songs of victory. They did not claim new territory. They simply cleaned the battlefield and returned to position, waiting for new orders. Humanity had not started the war, but humanity had finished it. On a peaceful hill outside a small town, a little girl looked at the night sky with her father. She asked softly, "Daddy, are we safe now?" He smiled weakly and held her close. "Yes," he whispered. "We are safe." Far above, black human ships slowly disappeared into the darkness once again. They returned to their hidden stations behind the moon, leaving only silence behind. The wreckage of the alien fleets floated like broken bones in the void. In the end, there were no speeches. No grand celebration, just the quiet understanding that something had changed forever. The 5 Empires had come to make Earth kneel. Instead, they were erased in the first strike, and the galaxy would never forget that night. Because on that night, humanity stopped being a story of weakness. It became a legend,